Slate comes out, quote, "Nonviolence is an important tool for protests, but so is violence." They tweeted that out June 4th, 2020. This was during BLM. Nonviolence is an important tool for protests, but so is violence. Imagine if the Daily Wire the next day tweeted out, nonviolence is good for the Make America Great Again movement, but violence is important too. Should have taken a few more podiums. Should have smashed a few more windows. Maybe worse. That would be the equivalent. Slate still has its Twitter account. If the Daily Wire ever tweeted anything like that, I assure you, not only would our social media accounts be gone, our web hosting would be gone too. The president tweets out, "Be peaceful." They take away his Twitter account and Facebook access. Other leftists, CNN's Reza Aslan, who is actually a cannibal. He's actually eaten human brains. That's the kind of person they put on CNN. He tweets out, quote, "If they even try to replace RBG, we burn the entire effing thing down." I don't need to point out what would happen if a right-winger said something similar. Emmett McFarlane, who's some blue check mark on the left, I don't even know what he does. "Burn Congress down before letting Trump try to appoint anyone to the Supreme Court." Laura Bassett, same thing. "If McConnell jams someone through, which he will, there will be riots." Okay, well, there were, I guess. Charlotte Clymer, who is this transgender fellow who is very vocal and left-wing. "We're now walking to Mitch McConnell's house to protest." So now actually going to threaten the guy's house. Obviously. Chris Cuomo, I guess, is probably the greatest example of this. Cuomo openly on national television, if you can call CNN national television, it's mostly just an airport intercom system, but theoretically, it's a big TV network, goes out and defends violent protests.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
As we have noted before, the First Amendment is where it says that protests are supposed to be peaceful, because you have the right to peaceably assemble. But I actually, can't believe I'm saying this, I want to defend Chris Cuomo for a second. Not defend the point he's actually making, but to defend the thinking behind the point that he's making. While we're all getting blue in the face, yelling about the double standards here, we are failing to acknowledge that this is about standards. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier in the show. This is not about free speech. This is not about censorship. All societies permit some amount of speech, and they all enforce some degree of censorship. This has been true everywhere throughout the entire history of the world, and it has been true in the United States, maybe particularly in the United States. Areopagitica, which is the greatest defense of free speech in the English language, says that we shouldn't give free speech to Catholics. And Milton actually makes some good arguments for it. John Locke, in his letter on toleration, says we shouldn't tolerate atheists. And he makes some good arguments for it. Even the most robust liberal defenses of free speech acknowledge that there are limits and censorship. What the left is saying is that if you go out and you protest and it becomes violent and you loot Gucci stores in the name of BLM, that is a good thing and we will tolerate that. But if you go out and wave the American flag and let's say it becomes somewhat violent, we will not tolerate that. We will give BLM spots at the Democratic National Convention and we will put the MAGA protesters in jail. And certainly the rioters are going to jail. Those are different standards. But we've always had standards. In the 1950s, if you went out and held a big protest, even a peaceful protest for communism, you could be prosecuted for that. As well you should be. Frankly, if we were a little tougher on communism today, we might not be in the position that we're in. And if you went out then and waved an American flag or you said, "Make America Great Again," you'd be totally fine. We had standards then too. We will always have standards. And what conservatives have unfortunately done is we've come out and we've said, hey, I support all sorts of speech. I don't want any standards at all. Say whatever words you want on television. Oh, drag queen story hour, it's a blessing of liberty. Oh, it's wonderful. I would never, because if I tell you that you're not allowed to host a drag queen story hour and have transvestites twerk for toddlers, well, then you might tell me that I can't go to church. And so we're all just going to throw up our hands because they're all the same, right? No. Good to go to church, bad to go to Drag Queen Story Hour. We should encourage people to go to church or, practice their religion generally. Good religion, though, not like Satanism. I don't think we should promote Satanism. Don't think we should promote secular liberalism. That's a pretty weird religion. There was just a video that went around, the New York Post sent it out, of this white woman forcing her children to kneel down and pray to black women. Actually to make an idol out of black women. Actually to objectify black women, which is kind of ironic. She doesn't think she's doing that. I just thought, man, secular liberalism, that is a weird religion. That is one of the strangest religions I've ever seen. But you want to promote the good. You want to discourage the bad. We've always understood this in America. Conservatives, libertarians, liberals, all understood this. Well, liberals and progressives still understand this. They still understand. You got to promote some things, you got to discourage other things. Just, they flip the standards. Right now, there's a tweet, went up on January 7th, from the Chinese embassy in the United States. It says, quote, study shows the population change in northwest China's Xinjiang Uygur Autonomous Region involves the overall improvement in population quality. Oh, man. An increasing number of youths chose to spend more time and energy on personal development. Population change and population improvement. This is an open call by an enemy nation for genocide. Open promotion of genocide on Twitter. Totally fine. That's okay, according to the new standards. But the duly elected sitting president of the United States calling for peace, not permitted on Twitter. Or are we going to say, well, I can't take a side. We can't promote one over the other. We need to support every single view. Viewpoint neutrality. Well, we're going to say that? It doesn't seem to be working well in practice. If you enjoyed that break from disinformation, historical revision, and screaming about the end of the world, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss another video.